Hello, and welcome to the Scott Mize Show, a podcast focused on health, diet, bodybuilding, and philosophy. I interview experts, doctors, coaches, and N=1 case studies to answer your questions about improving health, achieving your best physique, and making sustainable progress. We'll cover topics from carnivore and ketogenic diets to bodybuilding to life philosophy and everything in between. Enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by LMNT Electrolytes. This month, we're switching it up with an exclusive offer that's only for VIP LMNT partners, including Carnivore Cast listeners. You can now receive this free sample pack along with any regular purchase when you use my custom link, which is provided in the show notes or my Instagram link in bio. That's drinklmnt.com/carnivorecast, all one word. And as I said, I'll include the link in the show notes. LMNT Electrolytes are convenient, evidence-based, and delicious, and get yours today to help support the show. Thank you. This is a quick disclaimer before we start the show. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said here should be taken as medical advice, and please consult with your physician before making any changes to your diet, exercise regime, or medications. Thank you, and on to the show. Baidi Farl is a national level NPC super heavyweight bodybuilder. He's also the host of what, in my humble opinion, is the best bodybuilding podcast out there, Fit Nation Podcast, with lots of famous and goofy bodybuilders. Definitely check it out if you haven't. Baidi has been competing in bodybuilding for over a decade. He's also a coach, and he lives in West Hollywood.
Oh, wow. Thank you, man. You did your research.
No, I mean, your podcast is awesome. It got me through prep. I discovered it like a couple months into prep, and then I went and listened to all the old episodes, and then I just kept listening when new ones came out. So it's really good.
Thank you, man. I mean, I think you could relate, same way I could relate, that it really helps in prep, man. Like when you're for some reason in prep, for most of the prep, I like to listen to things somewhat more bodybuilding related. Yeah. It helps me. It gives you a level of motivation, and you feel like you can relate to what people are talking about. Yeah. And it helps a lot with cardio, even training. Yeah. In the car ride home. For my opinion, there could never be too many podcasts, because during prep, I consume so much, man. Yeah. I just want more and more and more, you know? Well, you got me into the like 90s bodybuilding DVDs because you kept talking about Marilyn Muscle Machine and Kevin Levrone. So I watched all of those, and then I was watching like Jay and Phil and Dexter and all these old training videos, and that's what I did during cardio. Yeah, we have it so good that we could literally just go click a video. We don't even have to pay for it anymore, right? Yeah. Back in the days, guys had to actually go purchase the DVDs, where we have the entire lineup. Yeah. Do you follow that? You subscribe to that page? Mock video. No. I'm going to send you the link. He has all the DVDs, because he has. Oh, yeah. That's where I was watching them on. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So something about Marilyn Muscle Machine. That's like my favorite one. I don't know why. It's good. He was just hanging out, doing his thing. He was intense, but he's talking to the camera the whole nine. So that's probably my most watched one. One. I like some of the old ones in Jay's. The video just starts with like him and all his dogs and him feeding his dogs and stuff like that. Yeah. The canon stuff sometimes is even more fun to watch than the training. Yeah. You know? And something about the raw, I think it's coming back now. Like somebody like Sam Sulek has been doing stuff like that, where it's just raw footage. Yeah. Like we don't need to see the slow motion edits and all that. We just want to see what it really looks like, you know? So I'm doing a prep series on my channel for this show. And I want to I've been trying to just keep the camera rolling so I can catch all the bad moments too, the good moments, the bad moments, and it can just be raw. And that's the best way to do it, I think. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I watched your first one today. It was great. And you were like not feeling it during your workout, feeling extra tired, but you still put it out there. So I respect that. You have to, you know. There's a lot of, I think we spoke about that earlier on the podcast as well. There's a lot more sides to it, you know. So even with the podcast today, we filmed the episode and we're like, damn, I don't feel like that was as funny as usual. But the boys are like, they're like, it is what it is. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
We just, maybe the sense of humor isn't the same, but maybe the convos get deeper. And people can still relate to that, even if it's
Yeah.
maybe not as funny. They're like, wow, that was deep. Thank you for guys for opening up. Oh, we had Carlos on, right? And obviously Carlos been through a lot, the past
Yeah.
couple of
Wow.
weeks. So Carlos talked more than we've ever seen him talk,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's good to see that he actually talks more when he's not in a good headspace because
Mm.
he seems more expressive, which is good to see people vulnerable like that because it's easy to sit here and say, well, why doesn't Carlos do Detroit? Why doesn't he do this? But you have no idea what he's going through. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? His life isn't just bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is a part of life, but we're still grown men and we have to deal with a lot of shit that
Yeah.
maybe people don't really think about it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Is he okay? Is he doing all right?
you know what? Surprisingly, he seemed in pretty good spirits. I'm sure
Okay.
that's only one side of it. I'm honestly shocked he was even down to do the podcast because,
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to pressure him to do it. It's more so like, hey, whenever you're ready, whenever you're free, just checking up on you.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, oh shit, So I took the moment to just be like, let me check up on him on the podcast, right? Instead of
Yeah.
because we talk off air, but I'm like, I might as well save it for the podcast since
Yeah.
he's cool with talking about it. And I think it was better that way because now people can see where his mind is at instead of
Yeah.
telling him, hey, bro, do fucking this and do. He's not thinking about shows right now.
Yeah.
He's a human being as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's so important. I'm so glad you guys had him on. It's so important to like show that because so many people on the internet, when they just see someone's out of a show, they like are immediately negative about it. Like, I was listening to Dennis James' podcast. It wasn't Dennis James, it was the other guy. I forget his name. But when they heard that Carlos had dropped out of Brazil and that he wasn't doing New York, they were like immediately like, oh, he needs to get this ulcerative colitis thing under control. Like, you got to learn to
Exactly.
manage stress, blah, blah, blah. Like, they had no idea about the cousin thing. And it's just like, they're so quick to
Oh,
judge.
it's like it's tough because I I can in some way see where they're coming from, but only if they knew for sure that there was no underlying factors.
Yeah.
Because the first thing I felt like I was watching that podcast as well, and by that time I already knew what Carlos was going through, even though it wasn't
Yeah.
public.
Oh,
Granted,
wow.
we knew for a little bit that he was back home and he was stressed out and stuff like that. But I heard them talking about that, and I'm like, I see they're going at it from a place of they're assuming he's fine, but
Yeah.
that's a big assumption to make.
Yeah.
You can't assume anybody for, but that and I just call that goes for anybody. I'll see people talking about how come Akeem doesn't just jump into this and that and that. We
Yeah.
don't know what just because Akeem is very private, and I mean so is
Yeah.
Carlos. But just because people don't talk about what's going on, we can't assume that they're perfectly healthy. Akeem I think it was last year, he was in a car accident and nobody knew till after the show.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
he was injured. He was actually
Yeah. I
fucked up.
remember that.
Nobody knew just because we assume if something happens, they're gonna post it.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, Carlos probably didn't want to post any of this, but
Yeah.
he felt like he had to, to his fans and
Mm.
stuff like that. So the truth is that they're speaking from an era like, okay, but we did all these shows, and it's like, well, good for you, but that's just not everybody's life works out that
Yeah.
way. He's just like on the podcast, he talked about his colitis did flare up. So even before his brother passed, even before that, he was already not doing well to begin with.
Yeah.
So they kind of maybe jumped the gun.
Yeah.
Chris, I mean, I'm sure Chris has his number. You could also ask him before, so I don't know. I try not to comment too much or be hard on
Yeah.
people without knowing the full story per se.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking on like life being more than bodybuilding, I remember one podcast, this really resonated with me. You were talking about the importance of having an identity outside of bodybuilding for when it gets taken away from you. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, this is something that a lot of us don't really think about, especially early on. Um, this is the benefit of getting to the sport late, like you did or Joe did, because you're already mature as a man. So you already have your identity. You know what I'm saying? Bodybuilding adds to your life. It's not everything. It's not everything. It's just a part of your life. So when you get into the sport really young, like a lot of people do, that becomes your identity from the jump. And Stu is really honest about this. He's like, man, I got to be honest. When I'm done bodybuilding, I'm going to have a tough time kind of finding my identity. At least he's self-aware enough to admit that. But yeah, for me, what happened was, like I said, I started competing pretty early, but then it was on and off. Financially, I wasn't set. I was in some, bad relationships here and there. And just I didn't have like a solid foundation. I felt that I could really give it my all. But then I won a couple of overalls. Let's say what I was 20, 23, 24. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take this seriously. Then I started prepping for my what was supposed to be my first USAs. And I actually got pneumonia, which is strange, right? Most people don't get pneumonia as a young, healthy man, but I have a history of respiratory issues. I had bronchitis as a kid. I got asthma. So that was during a little right before COVID time as well. So
Mm,
who knows? It could have been COVID. It could have not been. Regardless, if you have respiratory issues and you get sick, it's gonna go really bad. So
yeah.
by the time I got to the hospital, um, shit, I could barely breathe by that time. So they put the mask on me. I passed out.
Wow.
I ended up being in a coma for a week, which is
Holy.
yeah, which is unexpected. But like I said, you're a big guy. You're in prep. You're overtrained. They said I had. I'm sorry. I got a phone call. Did I black out real quick?
No, you're good.
Good. Good. Yeah. So so I get to the hospital. I pass out. They had to sedate me. So they put me under, kept me there, just to make sure everything is going properly. Now, when you have a bodybuilder who's not moving, your body rids the muscle. You start losing muscle quick, right?
Yeah.
But that muscle has to filter through your kidneys. So it's like you're eating
Mm,
a bunch of protein every day.
wow.
That's a lot of pressure on your kidney. So they're like, oh, this
Yeah.
guy he's having a rhabdo, so he's muscle wasting, but now his kidney is having to process this. So they had to put me on dialysis now,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
And then you have pneumonia. They're like, okay, we got to get the fluid out of his lungs, so we got to give him Lasix. So now I'm muscle wasting even faster, and I'm dehydrated. So now it's a mess. They're
Yeah.
dehydrating you, but trying to protect your liver. I mean, trying to protect the kidney, but the Lasix is making you dehydrate and lose muscle even faster. And then now they're trying to, it becomes them trying to keep you alive. But pneumonia shouldn't kill me. But now it's so many issues. So
Yeah.
by the time I wake up, I was withered. I was like, I don't know, I lost like 50 pounds. I had to learn how to walk again, believe it or not, because
Wow.
you don't use it, you lose it. So I'll say all that to say, so that was the point. I was maybe 24, 25. I had to realize that, wow, this shit can be taken from you like this,
Yeah.
so I had to rebuild the whole nine. So I had to understand that this is not me. And it took that, even though it's traumatic or whatever, it took that to humble me and understand that, this is not everything. It can't be everything because at the end of the day, it just takes one false move and this is over. So at that point, I kind of worked more on myself, and I think it matured me a lot. And it taught me that you have to be more than bodybuilding. But one thing I did like is that when I went back to the gym, people had the same exact respect they have for me, whether I'm big or small, and that meant a lot because it told me that even though I wasn't aware of it, that people didn't respect me because of the way I look. They respect me because of my character, and that's the most important thing you can have in
Yeah.
life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's crazy. I know you had mentioned you had pneumonia, but I didn't know the full extent of all the other health complications.
Yeah, yeah.
That's scary. I had COVID really badly at the start of
Mhm.
prep this year in January. And I was actually in the hospital for a week. I had to be put on oxygen.
Sure.
My blood oxygen level was like 90, which is really low.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like I was sleeping like an hour a night. It was really bad.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
can't imagine. It sounds like your situation was way worse. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
very scary.
Well, and also because it was before COVID, at that time, if any bodybuilder came out and say, "Hey, I was in the hospital, I had pneumonia,"
Yeah.
everybody goes, "Bullshit! You took too much steroids, and you're gonna die." You know how that was the
Yeah.
narrative. So at the time it happened, I was also younger, so I didn't. I made a YouTube video about it, but I guess I didn't get as deep as I would have gotten if it was today. If it was
Mm,
today, I would say I would give every detail. But at the time, it was kind of like I didn't want to because I'm like everybody's gonna just say, oh, he's because I was pretty big at 24. Everybody thought he's just a juice head and the steroids. That's what people are gonna
yeah.
think. They're not gonna actually listen to what I'm saying. So I kind of just maybe didn't talk about it as much as I should. But now in hindsight, I could always talk about it. Retrospectively.
And how long did it take you to get back into bodybuilding? I know you say you took a year off. Were you
Mhm.
like actually out of the gym that whole time, or you mean you took a year off from competing?
Yeah, so yeah, I took wait, because I took maybe over a year compete. I probably took like a year and a half off of competing. But as
Uh-huh.
far as bodybuilding, obviously I didn't take any gear, right? Because I go in the hospital at like 280. I leave at like 230, but it's not, obviously it's not a straight 230. It's a pretty bad looking 230. So it took me, I had to learn how to walk again. So I'm learning how to walk, to learn how to like, walk around. Like taking a shower at first felt like I ran a marathon, you know,
Wow.
because my lungs are fucked, so it takes a while to build the lung capacity, the mind muscle connection. Well, in the beginning, they told me I couldn't leave the hospital until I walked, and they told me that would take like 3-4 weeks, and I'm like, no way. So us being bodybuilders and we work out, it took me maybe like a week, because yeah, I would get up at night and try to move my body and just ways to do like reps,
Yeah.
arm lifts and leg lifts. So yeah, the whole process for me to get back into the gym after I got home, maybe like 4 weeks. So I missed 4 weeks at the gym. I was more focused on getting some food in, just eating when I was hungry, get the food in. It was slow. It was a slow process. So the whole process from, you got to go back to the bar. You just learn how to walk again. You go back to
Yeah.
the bar, you put 25. Obviously, you progress a lot faster than you would from the
Yeah.
beginning. But to go from hospital to tying my like 280 off season look, and maybe like I, let's say like maybe six months or so.
Wow.
So yeah, the first month is off. The second month you're getting back to like a normal gym guy. Then the third month you're like slightly above average. Fourth month you're like at your peak that you could be like on TRT. So I went from nothing in my system to like TRT. Then you go like 400 tests, something like that.
Yeah.
So then you get to your peak on 400 tests, and it was slow. By 6 months, I was like 280, but maybe a little softer than I wanted. And then my comeback show, believe it or not, was the USA's in 2020, and I bombed it. I got there was maybe three call outs. It was actually kind of deep. I
How'd
got
you go straight
maybe
to USA's if you took a year and a half off?
because that year was the COVID year with my comeback.
Okay.
So that year, because they weren't able to have shows, they said, "Hey, anybody who's I forgot the rules. They said anybody who's competed in the last 2 or 3 years and won a show or got top two is qualified, something
Oh,
like
okay.
that." Or it might have been everybody's qualified, but I don't think they went that same. But it was easy to qualify basically
Yeah.
because of the situation. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure anybody probably could have jumped in and just send an email. There was a guy in there that wasn't even American. I'm like, wait, I thought you couldn't do the USA. So that year it was well, whatever. Anybody could hop in that year. So here's the thing: when you come back, you forget what it takes because you've been removed. So in
Yeah.
my head, I'm like, I'm 280. I'm huge again. Yeah, but the 280 in hindsight wasn't the 280 that I needed to be. You know, so shit. I'm like 285 right now, but it's a completely different look. I was fat.
Yeah.
I just couldn't tell I was fat because I've been so far removed. You lose all your muscle and you gain it. It's like newbie gains.
Yeah.
So when you're a newbie, you think you're. But Compton told me this. This was maybe my second show with Compton, and he told me that, listen, if you gain 50 pounds and then diet it right back down, you don't keep that 50 pounds. You know,
Yeah.
it's not solid fixed. It didn't marinate yet. That's
Yeah.
bro science term, but it didn't marinate yet.
Yeah.
So he dieted me down, and I wasn't. He died. I had to get down to like 230, and I
Wow.
still wasn't shredded. So I bombed it, but it was a good experience. Caught a good rebound, and then kind of went from there.
What was that like for you mentally getting back over those 6 or 7 months? Were you like super motivated? You're like, I'm doing this, you're driven, or were you like questioning somewhat like, man, should I even do this? I'm so far behind. Like, what was going through your head?
So both. So at first, to go from the hospital back to big, at that point in my life, I'm like, I don't know how some of these guys retire and never work out. I could never not work out and eat meals,
Yeah.
but you get comfortable a lot faster than you think. So sitting around home watching TV and eating, you're kind of like, huh, it's not so bad. So getting back to the point I had the intensity and that instinct. That was the hard part. But once I had put on the size and ready to compete, I was super motivated because I
Okay.
hadn't done it for so long. So I was almost looking forward to dieting and looking forward to doing cardio. And being that I had to take it away from me, out of my control, it felt good. It made me feel more privileged because we don't realize how privileged we are to be able to starve ourselves intentionally and, and spend all this money
Yeah.
on food. You have to be in a pretty good position to even be able to consider bodybuilding. So then it made me appreciate it. And then I was very excited. I also didn't know that I didn't look that good. I thought I looked great because in comparison to how I looked outside the hospital. Um,
Yeah.
you work with Compton as well, right?
Yeah.
So he was honest. I mean, he's like, okay, this is not ideal, but but it's decent. So he's not gonna lie to you. He's not
Yeah.
gonna
He's
say, oh, you're
very
gonna go get.
straight up.
Yeah, so he never said like you're gonna go get first call out, nothing like that. He just knew this is something I wanted to do, and I was gonna do it. So
Yeah.
he helped me out.
Yeah. I felt very similar. Like, obviously, it was only a week for me. It wasn't a huge setback, but I felt super motivated once I could actually sleep and was healthy. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm getting to the show. At that point, I was like, I'm entering true novice because I deserve to win something after this shit.
Yeah, no
But
facts.
yeah, it was definitely gave me like a new appreciation for just being able to do this every day, let alone get on
100%.
stage.
It's almost like it feels like the first time. Like it feels like when you first started and you're making gains every week,
Yeah.
right? So it's almost like I got to experience why I fell in love with bodybuilding to begin with.
Mm,
When it's like you start from scratch, you put on all this muscle. We
yeah.
get to a point that you don't feel like you put on any muscle, even though you do. It's very small increments. But right now, I'm at a point that I'm gonna make very small improvements. So it's not like I wake up every day bigger and fuller and heavier.
Yeah.
So it was fun to kind of relive like my late teenage years again in that way. So that was
Yeah.
fun.
What's the goal right now? What's your next goal?
So right now I'm 15 weeks out from USA's. It's gonna be last weekend of July, which I believe is 27th, either
Yep.
26th, 27th. One of the, well, it's a 2-day show, so it's probably 27th, 28th, something like that.
Okay.
So my goal is to do the USA's, and I'm gonna give it my all. I believe my best package wins the show. That's what I believe. I'm sure somebody else may
Hell yeah.
disagree, but that's how I feel. So that's
And
the goal right now.
why do you choose to do the USA's over other national shows?
It's one of those things. It's just I've always wanted that title. From watching. I used to watch Nick Trigili. He won it at 25.
Mm,
I go as far back as Phil. I didn't watch it in real time, but I went back and watched it. And it's something about the USA. Being Mr. USA, I think, is the most prestigious title. Nationals may actually be more competitive these days, but Mr. National, Mr. National doesn't sound the
doesn't
same
have the
as Mr.
same ring
USA.
to it. Yeah.
It doesn't. So it's honestly just it's been a dream of mine.
Yeah.
And some people don't agree with it. They're like, oh, well, you could have turned pro last year if you just came back and did this or that. I don't look at it that way, man. I look at
Yeah.
it like we only have one time. You have one chance to turn pro. So I want to do it in my terms. I'm not in a rush to like just get a pro card by any means necessary.
Yeah.
This is not why I bodybuild. I'm going. I want to see how far I can take it. That's going to be up to me, my discipline, my lifestyle, and my genetics. Wherever that lands me is where it lands me. There's no pressure for me to do one thing or the other. I already make money from the sport, which, not everybody can say that, but
Yeah.
that's something that I've always been intentional with, that to make sure I don't need the sport per se, and I don't need sponsors, that I can be self-sufficient. That's important to me. So I do it because I want to do it. And if I don't want to do it, I don't ever feel the need that I have to do it. So pro
Yeah.
card or not, that's not how I think about it. I want the USA's, and that's what I'm going to go for until I get it. And then after I get that, then I'll know that, I should be ready to go into the pro ranks at some point.
Yeah.
If I can't win that show, then what's the rush to get a pro card?
Yeah.
You know?
There's no
So,
point. When do you think
exactly.
you'll be done with bodybuilding?
Man, that's a good question. If we're talking about an age, that wouldn't be my first. I'm 31 now. That wouldn't be age. Wouldn't be my first deciding factor. It would be a couple of things. It would be the first thing I guess would be if I felt like for whatever reason I fall out of love with it
Mm,
and I'm just miserable.
yeah.
And I know people like this. I know people who compete who are completely miserable. Now it's one thing to be miserable 4 weeks out, but if you're miserable every day of your life
Yeah.
and your life is crumbling, your relationships are crumbling, financially you're crumbling, I can't see how you could force yourself to do it. So if I was in a situation where my life is falling apart or just I just have no passion for it, I would stop, regardless of age. Kind of like Ian. That's what Ian did at
Yeah.
32. He just didn't love it anymore. And some people, may have disagreed, but it's his life to live. And
Yeah,
if he
absolutely.
does, so that would be first and foremost. How much do I love it? Second would be how does my body hold up, internal and inside and out, I guess. So if you're 25 and maybe I don't know your blood pressure is high or your ejection fraction is down a couple of points, you could be like, I still got another 5-10 years in me. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But at 31, I think you have to be, or anywhere in your 30s, I think you have to be a little smarter. If there
Yeah.
was a case where it was like, this is not going well, and this is not you're not gonna leave the sport in very good condition, that would be reason for me to stop, whether it's physically or internal. So those would be the top two reasons.
Yeah.
When that crumbles, then I'm done. But in a perfect world, nothing crumbles, everything is good. I'm perfectly healthy. I'm perfectly healthy. I wouldn't want to go longer than 40
Okay.
because I've sacrificed a lot and I'm only willing to sacrifice so much before it's all said and done. So I think 40 is young enough that I have a
Yeah.
lot of life to live and a lot of things to do. And I think that'll be a fair time. That would give me 9 years. 9 years is more than enough to get the job done. If you don't, then it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. What scares you the most about bodybuilding with regards to health?
Um, I think most of us, I mean, like some kind of early death or unexpected death.
Yeah.
That's the most scary part because, yeah, I know. Like, listen, I'm on top of the blood work. I have a cardiologist. I mean, I'm pretty on top of it, but that's just not the end all be all.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who are on top of it, and it can be I mean, it could be an aneurysm. It could be, it's so many things that can happen. I think Boston, even though everybody thinks he's died from some kind of steroid overdose or something, he just had a ruptured aorta, right? It burst, right? It just
Yeah.
literally burst. There's nothing you can do about. I mean, whether or not his lifestyle was clean or not is irrelevant. That if your aorta gives out, it doesn't matter if you're healthy, unhealthy, in kidney failure, in heart failure, you're dying regardless.
Yeah.
So that scares me. And do I think that bodybuilding has nothing to do with it? I don't know if I believe that. I
Yeah.
think I think training really heavy and being really big for 20 plus years can probably lead to more risks, and does lead to more risks. So
Yeah.
I'm not oblivious to that fact. I think none of us are. We just
Mm.
do it in the healthiest way possible. And let's be real. I mean, people who don't bodybuild die too. So it's not like it's only bodybuilders die and everybody else is immune to death. People die young. I go on Instagram, I see another celebrity or a rapper or a musician dying
Yeah.
before they're 50. It happens pretty often. So that would be my biggest fear. Put myself in a position where I'm living a very low quality of life when I'm older, whether it's losing a limb or being in a wheelchair or having some kind of organ failure. That's my biggest fear. So I try to do it in the safest way possible. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's the neurodegeneration
Mhm.
from steroids. Like Alzheimer's runs in my family. My grandfather had it. My grandmother had it. My dad's probably going to have it. And like, I don't want to do anything to accelerate that. So hopefully by the time that rolls around, you know, artificial intelligence and like gene therapy and all those things have come up with a cure for Alzheimer's. But that's definitely what scares me the most.
Man, it's crazy you say that because my grandma she lived and died in Ghana, so she didn't really get diagnosed with anything. But she had whether it's Alzheimer's or dementia,
Yeah.
she couldn't remember anything right toward the end.
Mm.
And then my mom is in her 60s, and every once in a while she'll forget some pretty normal things, and I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
And now it's at a point where, bro, I'm finding myself at 31 forgetting shit that I have no business forgetting. So that makes me very nervous. And
Yeah.
we talk about genetics and we talk about expediting your genetics. Like, okay, it runs in both our families, but usually when they're a lot older. So if I'm noticing things at 31 that I'm forgetting, that shows that I do think antibiotics do expedite, whether it's hair loss or heart issues. Definitely expedites it. We're not gonna act like we don't believe that, But
Yeah.
that does make me nervous. That does make me nervous. I don't even know what that feels like. I don't know if you would be happier if you forget, or if you would be confused and scared and miserable. I don't even know
It's
how
probably
that
a
would feel like.
combination.
I think so. Somebody on a podcast told me, I think it was Robin, it's happened to somebody in his family, and he said they were miserable. But my
Oh,
grandma, honestly, she looked oblivious. She looked like she was neutral, but not happy, not
that's
sad. She
good.
just didn't remember, So
Yeah.
that is scary. That's very scary.
Um, Shifting back to less serious topics, you talked about on the podcast that you need to get like extremely low on calories and high on cardio. How
Mhm.
how low have your calories gotten, and how high has your cardio gotten on prep? And why do you think that is for you?
Huh. So the lowest. This is why I shouldn't prep myself because I'm gonna be very extreme.
Okay.
And I think for my body, I do need to be extreme, but there's a level you shouldn't cross, and I definitely crossed it.
Mm.
So the lowest my calories got, uh, by 2 weeks out, I was doing 8 ounces of tilapia 3 times a day, and that was it. No
Wow.
veggies, no carbs, or anything. So if you do the math, let's say 60 grams of protein 3 times a day, that'll put you at 180 times four. So 2, 4, 6, 8. That would be a little under 800 calories.
Wow.
So
Damn.
that was the lowest it was. Now at that point, in hindsight, I got smaller, but I don't think I got leaner.
Yeah.
At that point, I just lost size, and luckily they thought it was good enough to get fourth. But honestly, I looked pretty small compared to how much muscle I know I have versus how I looked. It was pretty small. So that won't obviously that won't happen under Justin's watch.
Yeah.
I'm already losing weight pretty rapidly, and we're on maybe 3,500 calories, which I've
Oh,
never
good.
lost weight. Yeah, I've never lost weight on that many calories. So maybe I'm older, maybe I'm bigger, I guess. I'm leaner to start, whatever the case is. He upped my food and I actually lost weight, which is new for me. This never happened
Good.
before. So yeah, this is why it's good to keep your coaching all year round, because
Yeah.
I'm a coach as well, but you're not going to be very, very objective to yourself. So
Yeah.
you're going to probably go harder and not smarter, which is not what I need.
Well,
And you
maybe this is
said,
the one, Beatty. Maybe this is the prep. You don't have to go super low. I
you
hope.
know what? I really believe so. I don't want to be naive, but it's looking like it might be, from the way I'm looking, the way I'm feeling. It's really looking good. So I think things align for the right reasons. And USA is going to be in LA this year. I'm back with Compton. Everything seems to be shaping up to go perfect. So either it's going to be perfect or it's going to take a sharp left. But hopefully it stays perfect.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
depending on how you look at it, blessed or cursed with a very high metabolism. Like I'm probably
yeah.
half your size. And the
Mhm.
lowest I got on prep was like 3,300 calories. And most of the
Holy
time we
shit.
were refeeding 1 to 3 times a week on 1,000 grams of carbs.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I need a lot of food. Like I had my show a week ago and I'm already over 5,000 calories. Uh,
Holy shit.
yeah.
Well, if you would have asked me this maybe 3, 4 years ago, I would have said that's a blessing. But if I'm being honest, it's starting to, the more people I know and watch, it's starting to seem like a curse because
Yeah.
when you tell this to somebody who has my metabolism, we assume that, oh, well, you're dieting on 3,000 calories. You must have all this energy and feel great. It's not the case.
Yeah.
You guys are actually hungrier than I am because carbs stimulate your appetite. You
Yeah.
know, it's like if you fast, you don't get that hungry. You actually
Yeah.
start to lose your appetite. But when you're actually eating 6 meals a day with a bunch of carbs,
Mm.
you're actually hungrier. And
Yeah.
then you know, and I realized once you're shredded, you will feel like shit regardless of how much food you eat.
Yeah.
It because you're not feeling shitty from the food, you're feeling shitty because of your body fat, you
Yeah.
know? So now I'm like, well, you're just forced to eat on a schedule and force food down and still feel like shit.
Yeah.
So it's not really, I guess you get in shape faster and you get cheat meals, but do you really enjoy your cheat meals?
No,
Kind
but
of.
I wouldn't say I felt like shit.
Okay.
Really,
Good.
other than the week I had COVID, and then there was about 2 weeks where I had horrible digestive issues because I reacted really poorly to Halo.
Mm-hmm.
And then I pulled it and went away. Other than that, it was like really easy prep. Like
Oh, well, good.
for some reason, it just like wasn't hard at all. Like all the stories people tell about like, you're just so tired and you have to go train legs. I never felt that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never felt
Wow.
shitty. And I think I came in good shape. Like I had glutes. I was probably the most conditioned in each of my classes. But yeah, it just wasn't hard other than being in the hospital
Wow.
for a week. And
That, I don't know if I ever heard that before because even if it's easier than somebody else's prep, usually like at least from that person's perspective, they feel like it was so difficult, right?
yeah,
So you don't hear that often, but do you have like a high stress tolerance? Or not would you say?
I mean, I'm a relatively high strung person.
Hmm.
Like I'm definitely not someone who can just like chill out and like be really relaxed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, like I guess I just handled it well. I I don't think this is why, but part of it is I was a competitive lightweight rower for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
including in college. And like we had to do 6 hours of rowing a day and like
Yikes.
dieting on top of that to make a weight class. Like
Oh yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
that was that was fucking hard. Like
Mm-hmm.
and like going all out for a 6 minute or like 20-minute erg test, like that is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's like basically running a mile as fast as you can.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that felt way harder than anything I had to do during
yeah.
prep. But it's all
I think
relative. It's a different experience for everyone. Like there's people like Nathan Deasha who can just cheat all prep and come in shredded,
yeah.
or like Justin always tells stories about um, who's that one guy that
Michael
his
Lockett.
name's yeah, Michael Lockett. Like,
Yeah, I think
I'm sure I didn't have as easy to prep as him, but yeah, it didn't feel super hard for me.
Michael Lockett didn't have a prep. You know that, right?
Yeah.
There was no prep. He tried prepping and looked worse. So he basically eats whatever he wants, and then he tried when he started at first. He tried doing a bodybuilder diet, and then he would come in just smaller.
Wow.
So then he was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna just step on stage as is," and then he started winning.
Wow.
So that's the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard. Like, who the fuck
Yeah.
just steps on stage?
Yeah.
That's incredible. You know,
I mean,
you still
Juan Morel was similar too, like with his 20K cheat days and all that shit.
yeah. See, Juan could have done what Michael Lockett did if he didn't intentionally stuff his face with junk food
Yeah.
all year long, right?
Yeah.
If because Michael wasn't force feeding, you know.
Yeah.
Now if Juan was just hanging out, just eating regular bodybuilding meals or even cheat meals, but like a decent amount of it, I don't think Juan would have had to diet neither. I think he could have just
Yeah.
walked on stage,
Yeah.
you know, is kind of insane to
Yeah.
think
It's
about, but
absurd.
more power to those people. I mean,
Yeah.
if you feel the way you feel now, then bodybuilding is definitely for you, and you're gonna go very far in bodybuilding.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
just did my
Mhm.
first show and amateur show and one true novice. So it's not a big deal, but yeah, it was really fun. I loved it. I loved competing. I loved, I got to get judged by Steve Weinberger. Like that was fucking
Yeah,
awesome. So yeah,
you
it
can't
was
beat that.
really good time. And same venue as the New York Pro. So it was a really well run event.
Well, that was the Marriott Teaneck, New Jersey.
Yep.
Yeah, you know that was my first job, right? I used to
Yeah,
work
you
there.
worked there, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny.
funny part. And then I met Steve there before, and he was like in the, I guess you call it the back kitchen hallway, and he
Okay.
saw me, and he's like, "Oh, you got a good frame there. You work out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I work out pretty hard." Actually, he's like, "Wow, good potential." And I was like, "Holy fuck, Steve can see that through the shirt." But this is
Yeah.
what he does for a living. You know, he
Yeah.
can pick that out in the sweater probably.
Yeah,
You
he's a
know,
legend.
I like Steve.
So, I wanted to ask you overall, what has working with Justin been like for you?
Mhm.
Like, seems like you have a great relationship and you work really well together.
Yeah, I mean, Justin like a wealth of knowledge, man.
Yeah.
He's always been that way, and I feel like most people who work with him actually found out about him as a coach, which I didn't realize that. I just assumed because I've been following him forever that I just assumed everybody else did.
Yeah.
So, but talking to a lot of the other clients, I'm like, oh, you know him as a coach. In my
Yeah.
head, I know Justin as the bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So the first time I asked Justin to coach me was when he was competing in his prime.
Oh,
And
wow.
at the time, yeah, so we're talking about what, 2016 maybe?
Wow. Way back.
Something like that. Yeah, and at the time, it was on Facebook. It was like a Facebook message. And he was like, "Hey man, yeah, I do coach a couple of friends and I have a couple of local people, but I don't feel like right now I'm focused on my bodybuilding career. I don't feel like I can give you enough attention to what you need.
Yeah.
But at some point when I start doing this full time, I'll be more than happy to take you on as a client, you know." And that's something I respected because, let's be real, most pros at the time would just probably take your money and then
Yeah.
send you like a cookie cutter.
I'd say
Send
500
like some
bucks a month. Yeah.
yeah. And just send you some cookie cutter program or have one of their friends send you something. So I definitely respected that a lot. But I would watch him, probably still up on YouTube. I'm sure his channel is probably still up, even though I'm sure he doesn't use it. But there's what is it called? It's like Road to Arnold. I guess if you type in Justin Compton
Yeah.
YouTube
When
and you
he's
click
training
his
with Matt
page,
Jansen.
yeah. There's videos of him training with that whole prep with Hani, Matt Jensen, and it just he's narrating it, talking over, and just filming his workouts. But even back then, I saw how smart he was, and he was obviously self-coach at the time, and I saw how meticulous he was, and I'm like, this guy is going to be a really good coach.
Yeah.
Me personally, I like the coaches who have some science base, but experience for me is everything. And
Yeah.
not just experience with clients, but experience with themselves. It's one thing for a coach who's never competed at a low level yet, let alone a high level, to tell you, hey, you need to do 2 hours of Stairmaster.
Hmm.
It's easy to say these things unless you felt it. Whereas
Yeah.
if you've done it, you're not going to say these things so lightly. You're not going to be like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
just zero carbs, 2 hours of Stairmaster. You understand it more. So for me, I like when a coach walks the walk, talks the talk, and has experience. And
Yeah.
Justin has all those.
Yeah.
And as a person, I like him as a person, which maybe some people will say, well, if you're a coach, it doesn't matter if you like them as a person. I think it's important. I think it's
Yeah.
important you guys click to some extent. I think you should like your coach as a person to some extent.
Yeah.
You should respect your coach, and you should almost look up to your coach. So we're friends, but I also look up to him. So that dynamic is always there. So I'm not gonna, I always want to make him proud, and I think that's important in a coach athlete, uh, you know,
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, I respect the hell out of him. And I think he has super high integrity, like to your point of him not just taking your money when he was like he is such he has such a sense of like it's not justice, but it's like things should be right. And like
Yeah,
he has very strong values and like morals.
I agree with
And
that. I agree with
I
that.
really respect him for that.
When he was out here a few weeks ago, and the way I look at it is this: if I fly you out to a show, I'm gonna handle everything, right? Where you're staying, even your food, everything like that, But so he's out here, and of course, I'm trying to pay for everything, but he keeps offering to pay, which is I didn't, you don't expect that because it's like this is
Yeah.
kind of like I'm taking you out of your comfort zone. I'm the one that owes you, not the other way around. So I almost had to sneak around to pay. So I'll tell the waiter, "Hey, just give me his bill,"
Yeah.
which shows a lot of his character as well.
Yeah.
So that's
Good
character.
for you. Yeah,
Mhm.
I actually discovered him through your podcast because you,
Oh wow.
you
No.
and Joe and Paul were all coached by him, and he turned
Mhm.
Joe and Paul pro. I was like, wow, this guy seems super legit. And then I went back and discovered his whole bodybuilding career.
Oh,
And
see,
listened
you see what
to
I
like
mean?
podcasts with him. Yeah, and I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's what got me interested in him.
Well, he also, he's not. There's nothing wrong with this. The coaches who like brag about their pro cards,
Yeah,
he doesn't do that. So I
yeah,
don't even know if people are aware how many people he turns pro every year, right?
yeah.
It's or how
He's
many
turned
wins
like
he
50
gets.
people pro.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And if we're going by like just his wins and overall every year, it's incredible. It's one thing to always have like one or two top guys that you flaunt. He'll post everybody because he
yeah,
understands that those same people that look decent are the same people who become top pros. When he started working with Joe and Paul, they didn't look like they had some crazy potential. They just look like regular people who regular bodybuilders. You're running the mill
yeah,
bodybuilders. So he's not like, let me just take special care of these two. He didn't fucking know. He just gave his best foot like he does with everybody. And lo and behold, those same people become the pros.
yeah,
So he doesn't play favoritism. He just gets the job done. He doesn't even brag about it. If it was up to him, he probably wouldn't even use social media. You know what I'm saying? but he does it here and there. And I like the humility. I like the morals. I like his character, and I think he's a great coach. So
yeah.
that's my go-to guy.
Absolutely. Have you ever tried Justin's training, like 20 sets per body part, all to failure? He
Mhm.
said he told me on my podcast he would do 20 to 30 sets per body part, all to failure, and then he's like, sometimes I would go to 40 to 50.
Yeah, yeah.
I like, have you ever trained like that? And do you think most people can train that much and that hard?
So yes, I did. One thing is that he worked his way up in that volume as well.
Yeah,
So funny enough, he started training the exact same way I started training, which was it's called max OT training. So it's basically like a form of high intensity training, kind of like the Dorian Yates style,
yeah,
but even lower reps and heavier weight.
yeah,
But yeah, you're taking 2-3 minute rest and you're doing 6 to 9 working sets per body part, all to failure. So you warm up, go to failure. So he started there, as did I, and then worked his way up in volume over the years. It just so happened that his cap in volume was limitless.
yeah.
The more volume he did, the more he grew, and that's
Crazy.
true. If you can recover from it, that makes sense. If you can do more weight, then more volume, then more weight, then more volume, and you keep doing that and continue to recover, then you're going to become Justin Compton and you're going to
Yeah.
continue to grow and be big. More food as well.
Mhm.
Now, for me, I tried it, but I just found that my cap was a lot lower. So
Yeah.
I started the same thing, I was like 6 to 8 working sets per body part. Okay, get stronger. Now more volume, get stronger, more volume. And I did that and I did grow. And then I got to a point where I couldn't recover. So I couldn't recover and I didn't grow as well. So I had to actually pull back in volume. Granted, Justin at his prime was only about 25, 26. So we
Yeah.
don't think about the recovery of a 25-year-old is
True.
different.
True.
So when I was able to get away with more volume when I was also 25, 26.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm pushing 30s, I'm actually scaling back. So I went from 6 to 9 all the way to 20, 30 sets, and back down, back down, back down. Now I'm actually back to about 8 sets per body part. So it works.
Yeah.
Anything that you can recover from works. This is why I always tell people training hard sounds good, training heavy sounds good, training high volume sounds good, but it only matters if you can recover from it. So if you can train heavy as hell, and you happen to be that strong, and you can handle a lot of volume, then go for it. But if you can't recover it, then you have to pull back. So you're not making the program based off what you want. You're making the program based off what you can handle, which is exactly what Justin did. He just happens to handle more than we do.
Yeah, it's really smart. That's actually, there's so much insight in that answer, actually, because so many people just want to find the perfect workout split or the perfect amount of volume, but like learning to try different amounts of volume and then see what you can handle and just scale up is like the only way you're going to find the true answer for you.
That's the only way. This is why I try not to be a dick when I answer questions, but sometimes when you answer it truthfully, it sounds like you're evading the answer, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to tell people the secrets. But the truth is that if I answer it the way you want me to answer it, I'm doing you a injustice, right? So you could imagine the most asked question I get is, "Hey, bro, what do you do for arms?"
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's the real question is, what do you need to do for arms, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want to do what I do for arms because I barely hit arms, but that's because this is my body and this is what I need for my body.
Yeah.
So the answer usually for the guy that I talk to is just the opposite of what you've been doing, you know? So it's like, there's two answers. Somebody will tell me, yeah, I train arms every day, or I train it 3 times a week. And I'm like, maybe try training it 1 time a week, but do it properly.
Yeah.
Let me see how you do a bicep curl. Well, they're probably doing 90s and they're swinging their back and everything. So it's not that they need more volume. They just need better sets. And that's usually the answer.
Yeah.
Then after you master the sets, that's when you try to progress with intensity and the weight. Then after that is when you add the volume. So it's step by step. You have to get it down packed, then go from there. But the answer is very rarely do more, because most people are doing less wrong.
Yeah.
Or more, more wrong. So if you do less right, you'll get more than, more wrong.
Yeah. Focus on quality. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Baidi. It's been fantastic. I love chatting with you. It's crazy to actually talk to you after listening to your podcast for so long.
Course,
where can folks find you and follow along with what you're doing? And I'll have links to everything in the show notes too.
Yeah, so Instagram is at Baidi Farl. So BODYFARL. That's also my TikTok, but nobody uses TikTok anymore. I don't really use it either. And then my Instagram is also, no, not my Instagram, sorry. My YouTube, excuse me. My YouTube is also Baidi Farl. And if you want to email me for coaching, you can email me at baidifarl@icloud.com. And that's pretty much, or Fit Nation Podcast, of course, is on my personal channel, which is the Baidi Farl channel. I should probably separate it just in case for, if YouTube tries to take down my channel. But
you're all right.
Okay.
You're all right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Baidi. Really appreciate it.
But thanks for having me on. And also, you're really good at interviewing, man. I wanna have you on the podcast as well.
Oh wow, that would be amazing. I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's gonna help out, especially as we start fading. We need somebody who has better host capabilities to keep.
I'd be happy
going.
to. I'd love that.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening to the show. You can find The Scott Mize Show on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Please leave a comment, like, review, or share the podcast with your friends or followers. It helps more people find the show.